Dad lied about buying a new house with borrowed money and didn't invite me to the welcome party because he and stepmom despised me for years. So I did something he'd regret. Hi, I destroyed my dad's housewarming party a few days ago, but for good reason, so please listen before judging. A freak accident killed my mother when I was 5. My dad was single for a long time and didn't start dating again until I was 13, so we were close. It continued until he started dating my stepmom. When I turned 15, I had a strange impression that Nora didn't like me during their 2-year relationship before they married. She usually behaved normally around me, so I didn't think much of it since I couldn't create a fuss about not getting preferential treatment. After my dad and Nora got married, we lived together for a long time until I went to college. But when I returned home after graduation to live with my parents until I got a job, things were different. Nora was different and now openly loathed me. I never said these things since I felt like she didn't like me, but when I returned after graduation, she made it clear that she didn't approve of me staying with them. I asked my dad about it, but he just said she was struggling because of family issues. I attempted to leave as soon as possible and minimized interaction with Nora, since I couldn't shake the idea that this was my fault. Even when visiting my dad, I avoided talking to her. In recent years, since Nora doesn't like me, I haven't talked to my dad much about her. Last week, my dad called to tell me they were moving into a new house after ending their lease and buying one. I was shocked that my dad could buy a house because his business had been struggling for years. But I was thrilled for him. I complimented him and offered to assist him move. I was with him throughout because he accepted my offer. Now, like anyone else, I expected thanks, but a handful of relatives told me they were hosting a housewarming celebration and I wasn't invited. Unsurprisingly, when I asked my dad why he wasn't sure if he wanted me to go to the party, he said Nora. She believes this was a new start for the family and my dad shouldn't bring up his past faults. He told me that these were Nora's words, not his, and he didn't agree with them but understood and accepted her feelings. Even though he was friendly with us, he didn't invite me or his ex-in-laws. He didn't admit that I was his mistake, but if he followed Nora's words, I assumed he agreed and took things that way. Due to his toxic behavior. My dad and I had a terrible argument, and I chose to remove them out of my life. I couldn't believe he supported Nora above his son. When I told my maternal grandparents, they were unhappy because they had always treated my father like their own son after my mother died, and this was not what they expected. They also think Nora changed him negatively. My mother is gone, so she's competing with her relatives, which is foolish. We don't know what her problem is with us. Since we always treated her well, but she always had an attitude around us, it shows how pitiful she is to compete for no reason. I didn't talk about this for a few days. However, my aunt asked me why I wasn't going to my dad's housewarming celebration since she thought having a business retreat on the same day wasn't a good enough reason. I had no idea what she was talking about. So I informed her I was missing this event since I wasn't invited. Then we discovered that my dad had been lying to all the guests about why I wouldn't be attending so they wouldn't ask questions later on, telling them that I had a business retreat on the same day and really wanted to go, which was why I was skipping his housewarming party. That annoyed me. So I told my aunt everything. I told her Nora had said I was my dad's past mistake and that he had merely followed her. Due of my pain, I spewed all the drama. She heard me out, was upset, and said she was going to talk to my dad to fix the matter, but I told her it would make it worse. She informed me she would not speak to my dad, but I could do something to stop him from lying to everyone. My aunt told me that my father had been telling everyone that he had bought the house with his own money, but we knew his business was struggling and had our concerns. My aunt had a reservation and mentioned it to my dad, who was naive enough to tell her that he borrowed a lot of money from a business partner who had inherited a lot. Sam, a business associate, had worked with my father for years. Before Sam went away, they were great friends and enjoyed many dinners together. My dad informed Sam that I needed money from him for my expenditures, but his business was doing poorly, so he couldn't help me. He didn't want to let his son down. So he got Sam to lend him the money, but he planned to use it to purchase a new house, because he had saved enough and just needed a little more. He intended to buy a new property to save on rent and pay Sam later if his business took off. Unlike rent, which he had to pay monthly or be evicted. He informed my aunt about this wonderful idea, or rather brag about it, and she told him it was very dishonest of him, but he didn't seem to care. He even told everyone he could make it on his own as a homeowner. But my aunt knew the reality. The nicest thing was that he didn't have to notify Sam or invite him to the party because he didn't live here. My aunt told me she wasn't giving me any ideas, but I knew how to get back at my father. I contemplated it for days. It was insulting how my father treated me, so I called Sam. I was upset and couldn't let this go, so I called Sam and told him everything, and asked for his aid. I wasn't sure whether he'd agree, but he agreed quickly and stated he couldn't believe my dad would do it. His first reluctance to help my dad was because he wanted to use his full inheritance for his kids and save his own money for retirement. He also knew my dad's business was struggling. The time it would take my dad to repay the money was unknown. He wasn't sure about providing him money, but my dad was so forceful and even became sentimental about how much he wanted to assist me but couldn't, so Sam gave him the money. Now, to find out that it was all a ruse to extract money from him so he could purchase a new house and not invite me to the housewarming party. His son, that he purportedly wanted to help, was disgusting. The cherry on top was that a couple of friends told him that my dad had bought a new house, and when he confronted him, my dad lied and said it was from the money his wife had saved up and that he had not used $1 from what he had borrowed because it was all for me. After being misled to, Sam was enraged and didn't need much convincing to follow my plan. On the day of the party, I arrived at my father's house with Sam. He was surprised to see us, but he didn't want to cause a commotion, so he pulled us aside and instructed us to go. For now, he wanted us to leave since he didn't want things to go wrong. He promised to explain later. But Sam and I weren't here for that. We told him we didn't care and that he deserved it. We were as loud as we could before making our revelation, which was that my father had not saved enough money to buy this property on his own, contrary to what he had been telling them. We told him what he told Sam and how he borrowed money from him to help me, then not even thanked me after I helped him move in since Nora didn't want me around. We revealed all. His lies shocking his guests. After finishing our work, Sam and I parted ways. Since then, calls have continued. I haven't blocked my dad's calls because I want to know he's mad. He continued asking me to apologize to the visitors and tell them I was joking, because this was hurting his reputation with his friends and family. Since he didn't care about my sentiments, why should I? He hasn't even apologized for their behavior toward me. He doesn't regret calling me a mistake or lying to Sam about everything. He's probably in a lot of trouble, but he deserves it, so I don't feel guilty. My roommate feels sorry for him. Since we've lived together for 4 years and are excellent friends, my roommate understands what's going on in my life. He listened to what I said and said what I did was useless. He believes that if my father had made it apparent that he did not want to be in my life, I should have cut him off. However, playing into his hands, making drama, and being evil did not make me better than him. Or perhaps Nora. I thought it was unfair to compare us and told him he wouldn't understand my struggles since he didn't have family issues. For 2 days we haven't spoken after fighting about it. He has a point, so I'm wondering if I did the correct thing. I could have ignored it. I'd have to expose my dad at his housewarming party without an invitation. Some folks asked more background about my relationship with Nora, and I don't know what to answer. Our bond was weak, as I said. I always said I received a view from her, but she was normally kind before. She gave me an odd energy because she was frigid at first. I tried not to overreact because she was new to our family and probably just getting acclimated to having a kid. After college, she was openly disrespectful to me. And that astonished me. My dad never commented, even though it happened in front of him. I have no idea what family concerns he was using to defend Nora's actions, as she seems happy with her family. They attended the housewarming celebration. Nora probably started mistreating me because she wanted me out of the house and had gotten used to not having me around because I was in college for 2 years and only came home during the holidays. She started acting rudely to get me out, and my dad let her. I still gave him the benefit of the doubt after that. But after this, I don't think it will work. I have never made Nora insecure, so I don't know why she has a problem with me. She is, though. You must be pathetic for that. It is what it is. I'm not shocked that my aunt told me about my father's house buying strategy because we've always been close. She has always been righteous, and thankfully not like my father. After my mother died, she was my only maternal figure, and she asked me why I wouldn't attend the housewarming celebration when no one else did. Why she didn't mention Sam or reveal my father was because if she did, it would cause a conflict between her and my grandparents, something she didn't want. Fair enough, I think. Since I've never liked my paternal grandparents, this doesn't matter. I decided to talk to my roommate since it's been 3 days since I posted, and we still can't talk. Don't want to lose my close friend over this. I had to communicate to him about how betrayed I felt by my father when he treated me like way. I didn't expect him to understand, because he came from a happy home, but it sucks. I thought he would understand because I was attempting to talk to him, but he said I was being petty and juvenile. After my best efforts to explain, he didn't comprehend and the conflict got worse. He finally told me he didn't want to be friends with someone like me who was only interested in drama. He told me he shouldn't expect friendship from me if I couldn't be faithful to my father. I thought it was dumb and absurd, so I informed him I was ending the lease on this apartment by the end of the month, and we could go our separate ways. He was compassionate when he initially found that my father had not invited me to his welcome celebration, even though I had helped them move in, but then he changed his mind. I regret it. I won't tolerate rudeness. I've talked to some pals and began looking for neighboring apartments. Anyway, I had planned to move out and live alone by the end of the year, but it appears I may do it earlier than thought. First, my roommate's situation, then my family's. After the incident, my father kept calling me, but I didn't answer. He probably understood I wouldn't help him. For several days he hasn't called, texted, or tried to reach me. Nora texted me a few days ago to say I was a bad person and a disappointment to my father. I wrote her back that my father was also a complete letdown, so I think it's equal. She didn't text me again. My aunt told me that the whole family is against my father right now, because even though he has been insisting that Sam and I lied to ruin his reputation, nobody believes that because everyone knew that his business was in ruins and he couldn't afford this house. Even though my father did something terrible, my grandparents are furious with me because they think I should have confronted him in person instead of airing our dirty laundry in public. Good thing I don't care what they think, so they may be mad as hell. We've never gotten along because they're uptight and more concerned with their appearance than their character. I haven't spoken to them in years, and I don't think I will. Anyway, Sam and I parted ways and didn't talk for 2 days. We had nothing to talk about, but Sam told me my father had contacted him yesterday. Despite this, my father pretended to be the victim. He claimed that he never anticipated Sam to stab him in the back after being friends for so long and tried to make me look like I was lying and manipulating him. He said I had begged him for help, so my father had asked Sam for the money today. I broke my promise because Nora had an issue with me because I was always mean to her, and I was mad at both of them, so I wanted to harm his name. But now that it was so important, he would strive to repay whatever he borrowed before the end of the year. I think he should have done that regardless of the significance, but my father has no pride or self-respect. Thank goodness Sam didn't fall for that play and informed him that after their long friendship, he thought my father would be honest with him. However, even it was too much for him. Sam barely spoke to my dad, simply saying he needed his money back or his lawyer would call. He was smart to get my dad to sign the contract, and my dad can get into problems if he doesn't keep his word, so I'm delighted he'll finally feel the consequences. Update 2: I've moved out after 1 month of posting here. I blocked my ex-roommate on all social media because I don't want to see him again. My toughest weeks were the last 2 weeks we were together before we finished our apartment contract. I was disappointed since we hadn't talked for a long time, and he started acting like I was Medusa and wouldn't look at me. It felt like he didn't appreciate our friendship. I had to leave since I couldn't change it. He didn't say goodbye when I left the apartment, so I realized I had to take him out of my life. It was hard, but I did it for me, and most of my friends supported me. That happened to my roommate and my family. Since that last occurrence, my aunt has been the only family member to contact me. No one is talking to my dad, but no one is talking to me either, which makes no sense since I done Dad because she no longer needs their approval. She can survive without it if I can. To be honest, I'm happy and better off without my family. Update 3: I'm back after 2 weeks because my dad and Nora tried to contact me again a few days ago. Both texted me to meet, but I blocked them and ignored them. After that, they arrived at my workplace during lunchtime, and I didn't want them to embarrass me by throwing a fit in the lobby, so I told the receptionist to have them wait there and quickly took them to a nearby restaurant to avoid my coworkers. I was embarrassed since I hadn't expected them at my workplace, and I kept yelling at them because this was a significant privacy invasion that I didn't enjoy. Anything to do with them since I'm finally happy and don't want them to spoil it. I expected them to get mad, but they were fine. They let me take my time, so we ended lunch and they paid for it before departing. I don't trust them yet, and probably never will, but I'm glad they apologized and addressed this. I found closure to move on. I don't want to forgive him and get back in touch right now. I'll think about it and maybe contact them in a year or two. As I indicated in my last report, I'm content with my life. Thankfully, they apologized, but they said they needed to contact me. After sitting down in the restaurant, they told me they were apologizing because they realized they had treated me badly. Nora confirmed what I already knew about her. She was jealous of my dad's closeness to me, because it made her feel like he was still attached to his late wife, so she tried to ruin our relationship. My dad apologized for acting like a fool. I didn't have to talk to them, but they wanted to apologize. I told him I accepted their apologies but don't want nothing wrong. My aunt says it's because my grandparents think that even if my father made a mistake, I was wrong for bringing it up in public with Sam to humiliate him, and they've brainwashed all the other relatives into thinking the same. That most of my relatives were foolish enough to believe that was unfortunate. I have nothing to say about that in particular. Most of these folks were kind to me when I was younger, but my childhood is gone and I assume they had to depart. Now, Only my mother's family regards me like family, and I'm fine with that. My aunt will always support me. She also cut off her parents and my